Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our 5th season, we are looking at Joe Johnston's 2011 film, Captain America, The First Avenger. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
And I'm Pete Wright, and we're here continuing our journey through the last 7 minutes of Captain America as Andy ruins it for all of us.
That's my job. That's my job. Today we're talking about minute 107, which begins with trying to force her down and ends with the start of Steve's and Peggy's last conversation. Back on the show, it's Heidi Bennett from Vibrant Visionaries. Hello, Heidi.
Vibrant Visionaries, yes.
It's almost a tongue twister.
Howdy. Yeah, it is a little bit. Hi guys.
Hey.
Hi, Heidi.
So, so before, as we start this minute,
please make your case, counselor.
No, this is not a case. I just want to I'm trying to start with some facts, just trying to clock some things. Okay. So there really haven't been any moments in the movie since we saw the plane take off where we could cut, quote, real time out of the movie to kind of compress time. Like literally, like once Steve jumps onto the landing gear for the plane and comes on board, it's almost real time. Like the only time we're not really seeing what's going on is when Steve creeps from the crashed drop plane into the cockpit. That's the only time. Otherwise, it kind of is close to real time as far as what we're watching. And the plane only took off 7 minutes ago. So I was trying to do some calculations, trying to figure out where he could be and how fast he's moving.
Because he's saying your mistake.
Well, no. I'm just putting context to all of this. None of this is problem. He says he's kind of in the middle of nowhere, which is kind of somewhere over the Arctic. Based on the maps, he kind of seems to be off the northern shores of the Arctic area in Canada. It's really hard to tell because those maps don't look like anything that I could find. It is about 4,100 miles from Austria to New York, and it looks like he's about 2/3 the way there, which means that the plane is flying about 400 miles an hour, which at the time is actually doable for some of these rocket-powered planes that were out there. So that was just what I was trying to figure out. Like, how doable is all of this? Now, when Red Skull starts the plane up, he does kind of seem to use the Tesseract as its energy source because he puts it into the little cube console and now it's gone. So is it still able to fly by itself or is it just kind of slowly on its way down regardless of what Steve does? I don't know.
Because it's this giant 500-foot wingspan thing that is now essentially a prop plane?
Right. And now, or an air glider, right? It's just kind of, floating around up there. But anyway, I was just trying to contextualize, like, how fast is this thing actually going? And is it realistic for the time? And actually, it was. So there you go.
Okay, good. So we're okay on that front, at least.
On that front, at least. Now, my next question is plans by the SSR when a ship like this is starting to crash. Colonel Phillips, the colonel, the head person in the room, hears Steve's plea saying there's no way to have a safe landing with this thing. And his response is to tap Morita on the shoulder and say, you know what, let's let her have a moment with her boyfriend, and leaves.
And what is your problem with this?
This is a military operation. Why are they not staying there to work it out militarily? It's like he's written off Steve and said, you know what, this kid is just the sacrificial lamb. Here he goes throwing himself on the grenade again. Yeah. All right, I guess I'll let him do it.
Is this the final thing? Like you, I think, have been carrying a torch for the colonel to really be hating Steve the whole time. That he never softened to Steve, and maybe this is that final nail in the coffin, that it's the colonel's way of just being done with Steve for good.
Maybe that's what it is.
All right.
I think it's because the colonel has realized that he's in a 1940s style romantic war flick. And it's like, exit for this moment.
Okay, so while they were as on their way up to the cockpit, he went to the bathroom and accidentally ended up in the movie theater bathroom and saw a bit of the movie. He goes, "Oh, this is what I'm in."
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's meta. We've just broken the fourth romance wall.
Colonel Phillips is our meta character for the movie.
Yeah. Eventually he's going to look at us and say, "You're going to love this."
Go ahead.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I think it is like, because the dialogue between Steve and Peggy is very romantic and, starts to get very romantic. And the way that they're, shot, where you get to see their, beautiful faces and tears running down, and her gorgeously applied lipstick and his blue eyes and everything. It's like, it is shot like it's this romantic scene between two people that love each other and are kind of saying how may, each one sort of, how may I help the other one get through these moments. So I do think there is a shift in tone, and not all joking aside, but it is kind of like, because it is sort of look a little funny and fun when he points, he's like, "Let's exit this room." They're both in this soft light.
Yeah, it's constantly
and
soft focus.
This is for them.
Right.
Yeah, yes, they have to set it up for what's happening. It just, in context of the story, it's like, okay, well, now here's something that I wonder if would have helped me, is something showing us that Steve was trying to adjust the ship, like he was actually trying to steer it a different direction. But because of something Schmidt had done, it was pulling itself back on course. Like it would not.
The ship was broken.
Yeah, like if there was something telling me, oh, okay, that he has to stay in the cockpit in order for it to go where he's pushing it to go, as opposed to the autopilot thing that's going on.
Right.
And that's not here. It's just like, and then he seems to die. I mean, we're not quite there, but he will dive the plane and he'll crash into the ice. So it's like, he can pilot the plane. Why is this his decision? And on top of that, if he's going to crash it into the water, if that's the thing that he says makes the most sense, he has 6 Flagger parasites in the back, these little drop planes. Aim it for the water, run to the back and hop in one of those and fly out of there.
Okay.
I'm just saying, he's got options.
All right. Also, though, not for a minute, did you let your romantic Andy out of the closet under the stairs? Like, not even for a hot second? Did you let that guy breathe? Like, it's a moment. They're having a moment. I know. I'm not. I don't disagree with you. I think it's ridiculous, but it's also kind of beautiful. Like the way it is shot, the way the plane, when he tilts the plane down and the sky moves up that giant window. There's a lot of gorgeous filmmaking in here, if you can get past the stupid. And I'm asking if you could get past the stupid.
Sure, it's fine. I mean, Haley Atwell and Chris Evans, they have genuine chemistry, and I feel like that connection between them. And when Joe Johnston does that soft push in on Haley Atwell's sad little face as the tears well up in her eyes, and we see Chris Evans struggling behind the steering command for the ship, and the wind is blowing his hair, and he's making these decisions, and she's trying not to cry. Like, sure, I definitely feel that sense of connection between these characters, and I feel the romance, and I feel all of those things, because I do like these characters, and I feel like, despite the issues that we've had with, her finding an attraction to him once he kind of became hunky, I do feel that there is this kind of connection between them. I like the characters. I like the way that the story has crafted their connection. I think that all of that works nicely. And so I do feel it, and we're going to be feeling it for a few more minutes. And I find it works every time. And I think a lot of it is the acting. Like, I think both actors are really delivering, and so I like that connection. It's just the story ends up feeling so written and absurd when there are so many apparent options. Like if there had been clear evidence that Schmidt had done something, when he fixes the plane and writes it so Steve can't take it off course, right? So that's a thing. And actually in the script, in order for Steve to take it off course, what he has to do is rip a whole bunch of wires, like cables, out of the ground and kind of kill the engines. And then he's able to actually pilot it into the ice. If that had been in there, I wouldn't have had as many issues. If somehow all of those little drop planes in the back had been disabled or something, like I would have bought into it more. But because there are so many ways that feel so obvious, in fact, even when he's crashing the plane onto the top of the ice, which I know we're not quite at yet, it seems like he's kind of doing it in a way like, airline pilots have done it, where they skid onto a runway where like their wheels won't come down and they have to skid onto a runway to land, and everybody still walks out of the plane okay. So I feel like the movie is setting up so many ways for Steve to be okay, yet I'm still supposed to buy into the romance. So I don't know. Anyway,
okay.
That's me being rambly and complaining. But it's so romantic.
I'll let you have it because it's 60 seconds and let's say, maybe 180 seconds of just like, oh, these are two people who never had a chance. And I'm the one who for like 90 straight minutes of this movie thought, oh, no, they're just in it for science. But now I'm in it for the love, Andy. I'm in it for the romance. And now I just want them to have this moment of loss and grief and goodbye because they both believe that this is the end. And it ends up being a 20 movie arc for them to actually say goodbye. And that's fun. And have a dance.
Yeah.
And it's better now that I know that they actually get a dance someday.
I don't know. Heidi, what do you think of the romance with Steve and Peggy? Do you buy into it? Do you like it?
Let me rephrase that question. Tell Andy why he's wrong. That's what I need.
No, I mean, to me, it's like to each their own on everything, and I don't expect these movies to be perfect. And so to me, this is one of the more rewatchable of the MCU. And I don't expect every moment to be perfect. And to me, it was like, oh, this, like you said, this end part is it's a means to an end, right? Like it has to happen this way for the rest of the storytelling. But it doesn't mean that I don't find the moments between the two of them here very moving. And yeah, I think they're both absolutely terrific. And then like expanding beyond this movie, like I loved the Agent Carter television series and have watched it over and over again. And I wish it could have had the budget, that the Marvel series get now, but I thought it was awesome. And the way that Cap, grows and evolves throughout the other films is fantastic. So, I mean, there's nothing I don't like, whether it be his, and I mean, honestly, yeah, whether it be his awesome beard and longer hair to, America's ass, it's like, he's a very appealing person as a character, he's very handsome, but also we get to see his personality deepen and him, learn and grow and gain friends and, pass along the mantle, and her, being able to, the alternate storytellings. Sorry, everybody, I don't have everything all listeners, like everything right at my fingertips to remember all this. But, when she gets to be Captain Carter and, play that role, whether it be in the animated form or also in the
Doctor Strange, the multiverse.
What is it?
Yeah.
Multiverse. Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. Yeah. It's an amazing character. She's one of my favorites. And then, I've seen them. Obviously, I don't know them personally, but I've seen the two actors, on different social platforms, or listening to him on, Doug Loves Movies, and seeing her on Instagram a long time ago doing playful, fun, dance competitions and things, kind of pre-TikTok sort of stuff. I mean, they're just really fun people. So there's just nothing for me to not like. And I also like, when I think about things that trip me up, there are certainly movies or parts of movies where I just go, this doesn't make enough sense to me. There's not enough rules. I'm not engaged. I'm not invested. I don't care. This doesn't make sense. I mean, there's plenty of things out there that are like that. So it's not like I don't notice.
Yeah.
It's just more like, do I care enough for this to bother me? No.
Yeah.
Not at all. But that doesn't mean I discount your, thoughts on it, Andy. It's just like, what do I care about in this moment?
Yeah.
In this moment, not that.
Well, and to my point yesterday, I suppose there is an element of Steve having to make all of these decisions very quickly, right? And he's in this pilot's seat here, trying to fly this massive plane, trying to figure out what to do with it. And yeah, so he probably has very little time, and he's aware of that. And so he's just making decisions that may not be the best. And I suppose that's what I have to do, is say, he doesn't, he's not able to think as quick or have the time to put together as smart a plan, because his time is very limited.
Yeah.
So there's my own no prize. Well, so what do we think of, I'm curious where both of you stand on this kind of this personality that Steve exhibits, of the way that he views self-sacrifice, because as you pointed out in yesterday's minute, Heidi, this is him jumping on that grenade to protect people, right? This is that same moment. But he also won't let other people do this. Like when Vision wants to sacrifice himself later in in Infinity War, he won't let him do that. In fact, he sacrifices a whole bunch of Wakandans and a bunch of other people, and a bunch of people to try saving Vision. Where's that stand? Does it? How do you both feel about the way that Steve kind of reacts to that idea of self-sacrifice?
I mean, I don't know his childhood, and I noticed the very last minute that we're going to talk about that it says, like, in his little dossier that he doesn't have next of kin. So, like, I don't know his lore, right? So I don't know. It's just from this, initially from watching the decisions he makes from this movie. So yeah, maybe, he growing up as the little guy for his childhood and young adult life, like, he doesn't have a lot of life experiences. And then this is a very short-term experience, having all this muscle and learning to be a leader. He seems to be a natural leader, and he seems to be intelligent and all that, but he's still kind of a naive young person too. So I don't know.
Do you have any thoughts, Pete?
I think there's a certain, like, double standard that Cap has always had, that it's okay for him to do things because he's the leader and is protecting his people by taking on the mantle of doing the things that no one else can or should do, that he is willing to sacrifice loss of family and loss of relationships because he doesn't have any right now, right? Or because he has experienced that loss already and feels, I think, sort of fungible as kind of a resource to doing good. And that double standard doesn't always wash. That it's frustrating sometimes because, like you say, part of what makes these minutes frustrating is that Steve is wearing that mantle so comfortably in the face of obvious ways out of it.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like, is the conflict that we see here. That on one hand, we want Steve to be able to be the hero. We want him to be able to save the day and protect people and do so at his own sacrifice, because that feels good. It engenders our emotional support for this character. And I think that's what the character is doing here. And boy, if you stop for a second to think about it, it sure does make him kind of a insufferable.
Well, yeah, and I think there's a lot of elements from what both of you said, and Heidi, the idea of this guy who grew up very scrawny, always kind of viewed himself as less than, even though he had, visions of himself doing much more. But he was a little guy. He knew he was a little guy. When Bucky took him on the date with those two girls, like he almost was just like, I'm only here because Bucky dragged me along. Obviously, you have no interest in me. Like he already sells himself short, and I think that there might be something with that, growing up with that mentality, thinking that maybe he still can't let go of. Like he thinks of himself as less than others, even when he is Captain America. But like with Vision, he thinks that he's less than Vision, and so we can't sacrifice Vision. But if there has to be a sacrifice, it's me because I'm less than what you all have, and so there could be some psychological capacity along that line that might make some sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this minute builds. We've got this moment as Steve and Peggy have this conversation. There's no way out. He pulls out the compass with the little picture of Peggy in it, which is
cute.
To the point of what you're saying. It's very cute. It's that idea of a physical object kind of being the representation. So he's got Peggy right there with him. And then he puts it in a dive and heads down toward the ice. And that's kind of where the minute ends, as he calls out to her one last time and we hear her call back. Any last thoughts about this, or should we wrap up shop for today and come back to talk more about all of this tomorrow?
I guess this is probably obvious, but like the compass is an image of her, but it's also a compass, right? So it's like it's his North Star. She is home.
Yeah.
For him.
Music is lovely. The music cues are really picking up that emotional nod. The sky, the color is beautiful. We get a lovely sort of rose color in the sky. I love the way the clouds play with the ship, particularly as it's flying. We get that far, like above shot, high shot, looking down on the ship as it crosses diagonal across the sky. It's just lovely. Like there is some beautiful stuff in this minute of just like straight up filmmaking. So I think it is appealing to me aesthetically. Mm-hmm. And I think that is also a salve to some of the other stuff that might get in the way of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I think some of these films are rewatchable when I'm in the mood to go through the high emotional experience of like Black Panther. Mm-hmm. As soon as it starts, the music makes me cry. Mm-hmm. Everything makes me cry. I enjoy it. I laugh. I cry. I feel everything. And so I have to be kind of ready for that experience. And for this, it's a bit more of a, let me throw on, this one. Yeah. So, and it is because, it's just it looks lovely. Yes, there's some emotional beats to it, but it's a bit more of a popcorn muncher.
Gotcha.
In a jolly good way.
Spoken like Falsworth. Jolly good. All right. Well, Heidi, remind everybody where they can find out what you're up to out there on the internet.
Yeah, vibrantvisionaries.com is the place to find the podcast, the YouTube channel, and anything else I'm up to.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a lot of fun today. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about Minute 108. Check out her sites, everybody. And Pete, until next time.
We can continue tomorrow with Captain America by Nicholas Sparks.
Till next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Spread the News by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.